offering some of the class, style and drop-top glamour of the iconic SL, but in a more compact, affordable package with the bonus of that folding metal hardtop roof, the Mercedes SLK went on to be one of the hot convertibles to have, and today is a bargain slice of convertible modern classic luxury. But you do still need to buy carefully. So here's your guide to the R170 Mercedes SLK. The R170 hails from a time when sadly Mercedes quality took a little bit of a dip, and particularly on the pre-2002 cars, the water-based paint played havoc with the rust proofing on these cars, and that means, as any Mark 1 MX-5 owner will tell you, it causes rot. A Pro-Sto 2 car is a little bit better, but you still want to look carefully. For a start, the front wings. Everywhere pretty much. The seams where it joins the front doors, up here by the bonnet, down here by the sill, all the way around the arched lip, and you want to feel in there for any road grime in there as well. Around the headlights where you get moisture and road grime collecting in these seals, and around the bumper that can fade it away and make it rot. So the front wings, very vulnerable to rust, particularly on the early cars. You want to check the rear quarters and the sills leading into them for much the same thing. You're going to get bubbling paint all the way around here where it hits the bumper, and it was obviously rubbing the paint away and chafing that. You're going to get road grime collecting in here. That's going to cause rot, so get under the car if you can, check the sills. Look at the MOT history for any advisories of rust in the sills and in the arches and the subframe mounts and so on. There are lots of other little areas to check for rust as well. You might get surface rust on the edges of the boot lid and the bonnet, particularly around the back where people are rubbing away at the boot to get it open if they were wearing rings and scratching the paint and whatever. And you want to check around the windscreen frame and the A-pillars. You're going to get paint chips here that are going to cause rust and bubbling all the way up there, and particularly if you have to take the windscreen out to do it, if it's got really bad and eaten into the top frame rail here, that is going to be costly and difficult work to rectify. Then we're into the SLK's party piece, its folding hardtop metal roof. It should operate in 25 to 30 seconds all told, from first pushing the button to it latching down in place. Any longer than that would suggest that a lot of the components are tired. You want to listen very carefully. Does it clonk? Does it squeak? Does it rattle? It should operate smoothly with each component moving in and out properly and not contacting each other. The window should then go up at the end like this, and it should then be totally sealed when you're driving along. When you are driving, check if there's any leaks or any wind whistle that would suggest the seals aren't working properly. You also want to try putting it up and down a few times, make sure the whole mechanism works perfectly, and look for any issues like the panels might be just nicking against each other, the paint's been chipped off and the boot lid might be bent. Any of that would suggest that it's not operating properly. And if you're getting multiple issues with the roof, it could be down to faults with what's called the central control module, or the CCM. The good news is, if it has been damaged over time, old electronics do tend to fail, you can buy a second-hand one for as little as just £40 on an auction site. Problems with the roof needn't be a deal breaker, even on a cheap SLK. It's easy to imagine that it's going to write the whole car off and you've got to replace the whole roof, but that's very seldom the case. It can often just be a case of taking it to a specialist who knows these cars and can tell you straight what is wrong with it, because they'll have seen it all before on cheap SLKs. They do have roof issues, failed rams and little switches and actuators that mean it just doesn't work properly. And to keep it working smoothly, you also want to check the fluid for the roof. In the boot, one of the panels pulls away, the plastic panels, and you've got the reservoir for the hydraulic fluid that makes the roof ultimately go up and down. It is a DIY proposition to change that fluid at home. You can do it in under 2 hours, and not only will it hopefully make your roof run quieter, smoother and a bit quicker if yours is really old and knackered, but even if there's nothing wrong with your roof, it will prolong the life of it. And that means you can keep driving along with that lovely party piece roof, folded up and down as you desire. You can get the R170 with the 200 compressor, the 230 compressor, the 3.2 V6 like this one, or the supercharged V6 SLK32 AMG, although we're mainly concentrating on the more common first three for this video. Timing chain wear and rattle is fairly common on these engines, but you can prolong the life of the timing chain and keep that rattling to a minimum with regular oil changes with good quality oil and good quality filters. Same with any engine really, and they are remarkably stout given how many problems you can get in the rest of the car and other Mercedes of this era. On the supercharged 200 and 230, listen for whining from the supercharger. It's quite normal for it to get a bit louder and more prominent as you accelerate and go faster, but it shouldn't be too loud or sound like anything slipping, and it should come on boost and the car get noticeably more gusto around 2000 RPM. If it doesn't, that suggests that either the supercharger is worn out, the belt's slipping, or there are other issues you need to investigate. The M112 V6 can occasionally suffer from head gasket failure. It's not common, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't check for it. Look at the oil, look at the coolant, check the dipstick, and for any other signs of rough run running and smoking and so on that would suggest the head gasket is on its way out. The value of these cars means, particularly if it's a cheaper example, it's probably not worth rectifying financially. The cooling systems in these cars can be a little bit fragile. There are components of them that are plastic, unfortunately, and that means over time they get brittle, crack and leak. So check the coolant level, make sure it's not leaving any puddles, take it for a drive and then check again to make sure it's not weeping anywhere, because again, overheating and head gasket failure can pretty much write a cheap SLK off. Also, these cars are just about in the era where the OBD2 diagnostic port became common, so bring a code reader with you, plug it in if there's any warning lights. It can be a case where an owner has simply reset them to make the car easier to sell, so it's worth taking it for a drive and then scanning it again to see if it brings anything up. The manual gearbox is pretty rare in an R170. If you do want one though, just check for whining and crunches when you go into each gear, make sure the synchros aren't worn away, and check the life in the clutch because they're not necessarily that easy to get hold of. And as for the automatic gearbox, they're generally pretty stout. I bet every 50 or 60,000 miles it's worth doing a fluid change to keep them in tip-top shape, but it's worth noting that it's not uncommon for oil leaks to work their way down the electrical connectors and ultimately wreck the gearbox ECU, which can wreak havoc with it. You get warning lights, you get limp mode, it won't go into drive, it won't work properly. So any signs of problems from the gearbox, it could be worth walking away because again, financially you might struggle to justify it. The SLK is more cruiser than bruiser, but it's no worse for it. It's a great top-down comfy GT car if it's in good nick. Before we go into the suspension, it's worth checking that the spring mounts themselves aren't rotten, because that's another area these cars can rust, and again, with disastrous consequences. But then there's the components. If you're getting a clonking noise from the front end, it's going to be worn bushes and knackered ball joints, particularly with the V6, big heavy engine up there. You're going to get these things perishing over time. With the age of some of these cars, coming up on 3 decades old now, you want to inspect them carefully and make sure that all the suspension is in good nick. If you've got kind of a baggy feeling to the handling, where the car flops around into corners and the bumps kind of send it into a wallowing or a Morris Marina type motion, you're probably going to be out for knackered dampers. It's not computer controlled or active or anything fancy, just put new shock absorbers on and it will transform an otherwise floppy old SLK. If these cars are left standing, the brake calipers can seize, unlike the lovely red ones on this car. You can buy a rebuild kit and do it yourself for 20 quid each, or you can buy a pair of rebuilt brake calipers for just 100 quid. A lot of components on these cars are remarkably affordable. You want to have a good look at the tyres the SLK you're looking at is wearing. These cars are cheap and that means people do sometimes run them on a shoestring, but you don't want to find some 20 quid ditch finders on there. Considering that a 3.2 version of this car has got over 200 horsepower rear wheel drive, you want to make sure that you trust the tyres to get you round a corner in wet conditions. You might get an ABS warning light on the dash, and if you do, you also won't get traction control. That's probably down to a failed ABS sensor, but that really isn't the end of the world. Brand new, they're 20 quid, and it's about an hour to replace at home on jack stands. Easy. Also, you might get a weirdly sticky brake pedal, where the brake motion is fine, but the pedal kind of gets stuck down and it doesn't feel quite right to push. It doesn't mean there's air in the system, it could mean the bushes on the pedal itself are worn out. But again, a few quid to replace, and again, it will make the car so much nicer to drive. A nice example of an R170 is a lovely place to be, and it feels like a proper Mercedes, but a lot of these cars, particularly on the cheaper end, are scruffy, and particularly if they're a pre-2002 pre-facelift car, the quality was poor, to be honest. So you do want to check a lot of things carefully. Look at the seat bolsters for wear, they can quite easily get worn and come apart. This centre console, I've never seen one that hasn't had the paint all worn away and it's sort of looking weirdly grey on it. If you see one in otherwise mint condition, but with lots of wear on this centre console around the switches and the handbrake, don't assume it's a neglected car. You'll know if the roof seals are bad pretty quickly by an increase in wind whistle as you get up to speed, and it's worth checking that carefully, because if the wind seals are bad, that means it's probably water getting in, which will play havoc with an SLK. It can kill the electrics, it can kill the central control module for the roof, as we mentioned earlier. It can even kill the hydraulic pump for the roof as well as getting into the wiring and causing all kinds of random warning lights and issues. And on a car of this value and of this age, that can very easily write it off. So view any signs of dampness and indeed any electrical gremlins with extreme caution. If the car locks erratically, or indeed doesn't lock or unlock at all on the key and you have to do it manually, it probably means that the boot seal has failed, you've got damp in the boot, and it's wetted out and ruined the central locking module. The good news is that a second-hand one is around 150, 200 quid, plug it in and it should work. But again, check that water in the boot hasn't rotted it through or caused any other problems. Finally, perhaps the simplest and cheapest fix on an SLK, if the relay for the indicators has failed, it will just go and stick on a solid indicator and won't flash or tick properly. That means the relay's failed and a new one is a tenner. Easy. So there's everything you need to know if you want to buy an R170 SLK, and I can highly recommend it. But what should you pay for one? Well, do bear in mind these are at the bottom end of their value curve at the moment, and that means you can get into an MOT'd, slightly tatty but usable SLK for £1,000 with the 200 or the 230 engine in them. And frankly, if you go into it with your eyes open about the values, that's a great car for the money. Drive your MOT to MOT, and the first big bill it throws up, put it up as spares or repairs and get another one. They're still great value at the moment. If you want a car to keep more long term though, start your search around £2,500 to £3,000 and up that to £5,000 for some of the really nice 200 and 230 compressors on the market. The V6s like this one do tend to command more. People value the 320s, and that means you want to start your search for one of these cars around the £2,500, but we don't see any reason to pay much more than £7,000 or even £8,000 for the nicest 230 or 320 SLK on the market. Unless you find a pristine, barely delivery mileage museum piece, you don't need to spend that much, and you're into the later R171 SLK territory at that price range anyway. So buy on condition, not on mileage. Go in with your eyes wide open about what their values are, and what you've got in the R170 SLK is a cheap slice of glamorous, stylish, drop-top Mercedes-Benz motoring that you can have for less than the price of a finance payment on a new A-Class. You really can't go wrong. But what do you reckon? Have you owned one of these cars, and what advice would you give to someone looking for one? Let us know in the comments down below. Like this video, subscribe to Classics World for all our future Mercedes and other car content. There's plenty of it on the channel, and we'll see you very soon. But for now, the sun's out and I've got a convertible to drive. See you again soon.